the Nigerian equities market witnessed a shift in investor sentiment as profit-taking in the insurance sector outweighed earnings positions for bank stocks. Patrick Ejumedia, the head of research at Sterling Asset Management and Trustees, joins me now for more on the markets today. Thank you so much for your time today, Patrick. And let's first get a sense of what's the shifting sentiments here in the market.
So first, it's important that we know how the market has performed, like you said. You've seen those level of increased performance in the market. Yeah. But again, if you look at July happened to be a very interesting time for the market. The market is about 16%, thereabout that. But this month, like you mentioned, because of the profit-taking activities and all that, and of course, earnings release, profit-taking, and some form of portfolio readjustment, because this time when portfolio begin to do some form of readjustment. Yeah. So we've seen the market has done about 4.8% now. And again, the news around the insurance sector reform, those activities and all that. And then some form of predictions about stability in the macroeconomic environment, again, those things are bringing some level of confidence and bringing activities in the equity market. So that's why we're seeing what we are seeing.
Okay. Yeah, because now looking at what we've seen play out there, looking at some select bank names, corporate moves here, ETI was seeing up 8.6% in terms of growth in gross earnings. Seen quite a lot play out from the bank as well. Seen that divestment in the Mozambique unit, and then we're also seeing one of the longest-term shareholders there, Nedbank Group.
They're trying to
talking about an intention to sell its 21% stake
in the bank.
Yeah. Let's get into what we're seeing play out with ETI here.
Yeah. So basically, every organization wants to look at states or countries or regions where they seem to be very profitable. So if they are trying to do some divestments, what one would be considering is to say, is that a strategy that they want to look about? If what is happening, if they are not trying to be making so much money from their branch in Mozambique, they might decide to divest. And if that divestment is going to bring about growth, going to bring some form of transformation, it's going to bring about a new look and how investors are going to be perceiving what is happening. Of course, it's going to have some level of impact. But theoretically, you see that the investment basically brings about growth in firm performance.
But let's look at what's playing out here, especially in the banking space and sentiments that we're seeing shaping that. What's your outlook when looking at the earnings that we've seen so far and expected ones?
So basically, what the banking sector has been from the beginning of, since the recapitalization announcement and the exposure that they talk about and all that. So a lot of things has transformed. And of course, given that, again, we have till next year for the recapitalization process to finish, and given that the CBN is closely watching the bank to ensure that most of them, because like we've all known, we cannot afford to close the bank at this point. Yeah. So right now, the volatility will always be there. It's stock price. Stock price cannot just have that upward movement forever. So we'll have some form of volatility. But overall, we'll see some form of positive movement that will be happening in the banking sector.
Yeah, but let's get to First Holdco as well, because also another interesting name, quite a lot in the news in recent times. Yeah. But looking at the developments there, how are investors digesting that?
Yeah, so it's about leadership transition, and those have a way to have how it affects. One, it depends on how investors see what is happening. Of course, traditionally, leadership transition can either bring about a positive or negative impact on firm performance. Depends on what investors are saying, what shareholders are saying, even what employers are saying. Of course, when they see that whoever is taking over the new seat is coming up with some fresh ideas, fresh innovations and all that, they see that person as somebody who will bring about growth, and that can positively affect the profitability and then the share price of the organization. So it depends. It's about how this leadership transition process is being managed. If it's managed well, then overall they'll see some form of profit at the end of the day.
Yeah, because the third quarter has been quite an interesting one in the market this year, like you earlier alluded to there. But for you, what would you say are some of the other trends that you notice in this quarter?
In terms of the market as a whole?
Yeah.
Of course, it's not surprising. Remember that starting from Q1, if you see what happened in Q1, we saw the consumer goods sector that was doing very well. But at some point, they just went down there, and the industrial sector took place again and all that. For last week, if you see what happened, we see a lot of industrial sector firms, taking the lead there. This week, we are seeing insurance sector, because of the news around the insurance reform that is taking place. Yeah. So again, the macroeconomic stability that we're also seeing that is making investors to come, to say, okay, we can come to stock market. Don't forget that treasury bills, short market fixed income instrument is also coming down. And so investors are saying, oh, this is no longer profitable for us. Let's come towards the equity market and all that. And if you also check liquidity, system liquidity, you see that most of the treasury bills that the government have been offering is being oversubscribed. And so when those people that don't get allotted this instrument, what they do is they come to the equities market to play. So these are some of the things that is shaping the equities market.
For investors looking into this market then, as we tag along into the rest of the year, where would you advise, what sectors would you say are more profitable in the latter end of the third quarter and even to the fourth quarter?
So basically, it's important that one get to look at the dynamics of what is playing.
Yeah.
For now, off my head, just to say off my head, what we'll be looking at is, okay, people are already looking at what is going to happen in the construction space. If you look at the rebasing of and the GDP data that came out for Nigeria, you saw what the construction sector did. And people are researching that, this sector is likely to do well because of the dirty December that people are researching that will replay itself again in December. So we might see firms in those sectors. We might also see banks because, again, if you look at the GDP figures again, they show that the digital economy is also doing well. Yeah. So the banks that are heavily digitized might also see some level of performance too that you will see in those sectors. Again, the stability in the macroeconomic environment will also have some impact on the consumer goods sector. You know, don't forget that, yes, at some point, you see a lot of Nigerian goods now begin to export their goods because it favors them to export and they make good profit out of it. So these are factors. Again, inflation is coming down. We're expecting the numbers next week and we expect it again to go down. So these factors may continue to shape some level of, yes, the volatility will be there. You always see the volatility that comes at some point, but we'll see it trending upward most times.
Let's get to the insurance sector, because you already alluded to that already, and I wanted to take a deeper dive into what we're seeing play out there. Yes, the reforms are heavy out right now. AXA Mansard results just came out. We're seeing, gross premiums up about 23%. I'd love you to talk about that and, how the competition in that space is playing out.
Yeah, so first is to know that what was the reason for the reform? Yeah. The government have come to say that, okay, we are moving towards a 1 trillion naira economy. And how should we move towards 1 trillion economy and the insurance sector is supposed to be insuring people that are coming with 500 billion cannot grow. Yes. So let's do that for them too.
Yeah, because in other climes, you look at insurance are much bigger than some banks.
Yeah, because it has to do with the cultural belief. You don't tell average Nigerians don't want to insure anything.
You're talking to a former insurance salesman. I know that all too well.
So those are the issues, and the mindset. Ideally, insurance sector globally, you see them topping bank in some countries as well. Yeah, okay, you want to say something?
Because reforms will definitely play a lot in terms of deepening penetration, insurance penetration.
Yeah, so it's not just the reform, it's also looking for a way to change the mindset of Nigerians too. Yeah. Because even if the reform is good, yes, you can see companies will be doing a lot of company insurance. And what about individuals, So, and these are the things that actually bring about the increased numbers. If you see if we can look at the breakdown of AXA Mansard's reports now, and we are looking at where is this increased premium coming from? Yeah. Is it institutional? Is it individuals? Is it, you see, is it company and all that? Yeah. So if you look at those things and you look at maybe the car insurance and all the breakdown, all the components, their line items for their income, then you begin to have a deeper analysis as to why is it that one aspect is doing well more than the other?
It's a question I'd like to ask analysts here, because when you look at the trends in the equities markets in Nigeria over the past 3 to 5 years, you find that with the small cap stocks, sometimes no fundamental driving it, but then you see just some names shoot up real big each year, and then that it rebalances almost every year. Yeah. This year we're seeing Bitter Glass and a few other names.
Are you surprised about Bitter Glass? I don't think I'm surprised, because people are talking about smart houses now. Yeah. So they are using glass in most of the things that they do. So it's not surprising that they are also.
Yeah, but there are some other names as well.
There are some other names as well that are also doing.
But find the fundamental driving.
But what happens? Sometimes it's not fundamental. Sometimes it's the market intelligence that you see in the market. Sometimes it's the news. Sometimes it's the expectation. So these are a lot of information. It's not just the fundamentals. Yes, but the question about fundamentals is how durable is those rise going to be.
So short-lived?
So it might just, exactly. So if it's not fundamentally driven, it might just be short-lived. So you see that stock doing very well now, and the next minute is just down.
All right, thank you so much. Interesting take on the market today. Well, thank you for your time. Patrick Ejumedia here, the head of research at Sterling Asset Management Limited.